case studies, open source demos, industry conversations, and all the latest updates from the global community. We are here live on Thursdays at 1500 UTC, streaming on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. So thanks for everyone that's joining us already. My name is Erin Disney. I run events for the OpenInfra Foundation, and I will be your host for today. I've actually been producing the show behind the scenes for the last year, so super exciting to be in this chair today. Thanks for having me. Like I mentioned, we are live. I've got my own line of questioning for today's panel, but we'll be answering audience questions throughout the show. So feel free to drop questions, comments, or even hellos and shout outs to the panel into the comment section, and we will get to as many as we can. First off, I want to, hang on one second, here we go. I want to thank all of our member organizations who make the show possible. Huge thanks to their support. And if you're interested in joining the foundation, check out openinfra.dev/join to learn more. Before we get started, I just want to take a minute and reminisce a little bit about the last time we even saw each other. For some of you, it maybe was the Denver Summit in April of 2019. When it snowed, it was not snowpocalypse in Dublin levels, but it was snow at a summit. Hard to forget that one. Or maybe the last time you were at the Shanghai show, which was our last in-person summit in November of 2019. It was so great to finally be able to bring the community to China and witness the explosive growth of open source adoption happening there. Was an amazing time. Can't wait to get back there either. So now, after 2 years since the last time we saw each other, I'm just so excited to be here talking with today's awesome panel about our first summit back since 2019. We are thrilled to be going back to Berlin for the first time. Different venue. I snuck in a slide here to show you pictures of the venue because I'm just obsessed with how gorgeous it is. It's for those of you that remember the last venue, kind of a train ride, but this one is in the center of town. The Berlin Congress Center is the name. We will be in Berlin on June 7th through 9th. We have Reg live already. Sponsorships are live. And the reason we're here today, the reason for the season, CFP is now live as well. We have a deadline on that for February 9th. So we wanted to get in front of you today and just kind of talk about all the things you need to know to be able to submit to the CFP. Also wanted to show, this is the full list of tracks today. We're talking about 4 today, including a new one. New for this summit is hardware enablement. We have somebody here that is on the programming committee to talk a little bit about what we're looking for there. You still have a few weeks left to submit. And like I said, I'm joined today by some OpenInfra experts and members of this year's programming committee to help break down what it takes to get your presentation selected and on the official summit schedule. So panel, please join me. Let's chat. Awesome. And okay, also before we get started, fun fact, this is definitely a first in OpenInfra history. We have all A names except mine, which baristas frequently think my name starts with an A. So I feel like I'm maybe part of the club. So yes, today's episode is definitely brought to you by the letter A. Welcome, everyone.
Thanks for having us.
Awesome. Well, let's kick things off with a round of introductions. We'd love for everyone to sort of tell us a little about yourself, the track that you're representing this cycle, and why it's important to you. Arkady, do you mind going first?
Certainly. So my name is Arkady Kanevsky. I have been around the open infrastructure and OpenStack before that for the last 10 years. And been actually on the Open Infrastructure Board of Directors for 4 years.
Awesome. Do you want to tell us a little bit about hardware enablement and what this track is going to cover now that it's brand new?
Absolutely. So I'm extremely excited about having a new track for hardware. That have been kind of a pet project for me, and I have been involved in that since the beginning. And we, on open infrastructure, we have been working on a bare metal and a hardware for quite some time. The Ironic project, Cyborg project, bare metal SIG have been around for a very long time and have been very successful. But this, for the first time, we are having a dedicated session for the hardware. So obviously, the first thing first, somebody need to manage the hardware, and how we're going to manage that hardware is the kind of the crux of the matter. And it comes kind of in in two stages. So one is enabling the hardware and what are the tooling, how we're going to do that, and the second one, how do you do the life cycle, and it includes all the different pieces from the discovering of the stuff, setting up the BIOSes, the firmware of various components and managing them through the life cycle. How do you want to boot up your images from, and so on and so forth. So all of that is part of that thing. And as you go deeper into the things, as you are wanted to optimize how you're going to use a componentry from the DPU, FPGA, SmartNICs, all of that is part of that things. And it's kind of related very quickly of how the next things will be, the next layer will come up, which is networking and the bare metal, where you're dividing the hardware for specific use cases. So there are some fair amount of the workloads which are very intricately dependent on the hardware, and you want to be able to manage them together. So that's all part of this topic. So any submission on that will be welcome. Obviously, there is a dependency on various standards which we are relying on to make that happen, from the OCP, from the Redfish, from IPMI before that, and so on. So this is very active areas, and there is a lot more work dependent on that. And then how it is utilized by the different classes of the workload, from HPC, telco, AI, they're obviously of great interest, not only in design of the hardware, but also how we're going to manage that as a part of the cloud.
Awesome.
So if you have any questions, please pose them, and we'll be happy to answer them. And I'll pass the baton to the next participant.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Excited about that one. Fun to have a new track. Next up is getting started. Amy, this is one of my favorites. We actually had an episode. It was a Ben Silverman OpenStack 101 episode that we featured on OpenInfra Live over the summer, because it's one of our most viewed videos ever. And it's a recording of his CFP submission that he presented in Sydney in 2017. So I love this track. Tell us a little bit about you and what you're looking for here.
Yeah, so my name is Amy Marrich. I'm a Principal Technical Marketing Manager at Red Hat. I also serve on the OpenInfra Foundation Board of Directors, the Technical Committee, and I'm Chair of the Diversity Inclusion Working Group. And I'm also core on OpenStack Ansible, so I've got my fingers in everywhere. So the Getting Started track is great because it's a great way to bring people into the communities. And I'm going to say the word beginner level twice here, but it's a beginner level track to learn the basics about all infrastructure related topics. So things that are important that you can contribute, talks on are ways to contribute to a project. And it's not just code, it's documentation, it's mentoring. So if you were an outreachy intern and you want to talk about your experience, this is the topic for you. This is where you're going to put that in. So also how to begin contributing to a project. So a project introduction, what is Kata all about? Onboarding for new community members. I often do Git and Garrett lunch and learns under this track or separately, but it's a great way for people to take those first steps to joining your project. How to use OpenInfra technology. So that OpenStack 101, great example. Airship, how do I get my first instance started? So again, a very beginner level talks. So keep it simple, keep it to the beginner level. This is your introduction to people. And I think that's about it on getting started.
Awesome. Love that one. Thank you for participating in this one. I think it's just so important, especially as we add new members to the community, just making sure everyone's informed and knows how to get started. So thank you, Amy. Awesome. Next up, Arne, private and hybrid cloud, definitely one of the most popular tracks historically. Introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about this one.
Right. So hello, everyone. My name is Arne Wiebalck. I work at CERN, the European Organization for Nuclear Research. I joined the CERN cloud team in 2014. I mostly look after operation of our cloud, but I also have contributed upstream to various projects such as Cinder, Manila. I'm a core in Ironic. And I also chair the OpenStack bare metal SIG since a year and a half. So this track, as you can see, has quite a wide range of different topics, but most of them evolve around the how to do something, how to design, how to pick, how to address certain issues, how to operate and run. And this is probably closest to what I'm doing in my daily job. So this is why it's like where I can probably contribute the most with my expertise. So what we were looking for in this track is probably something, or will be a lot around like, okay, deployments that tell us how they do specific things. So it will be a lot of show and tell of specific deployments, explain how things were set up and why certain decisions have been taken, what kind of hurdles deployers had to master, how they dealt with like recurring issues, be it like issues that are for instance, occur regularly and are not addressed by the software at the moment, or that have issues that come up only once, where you had to migrate from one, say, configuration to another. So to give you an example, for instance, something that is that we introduced lately was like to introduce availability zones into our Cinder deployment. So while, of course, the system was in production. So how do we address these kind of issues, and how you do this, and like recipes and sharing experience is probably an interesting part of this track.
Love it. Recipes. It's good. Thank you, Arne. And then finally, Armstrong, thank you so much for being here. Now, this track has been coming up a lot lately. Now, there's a lot of excitement around AI and machine learning. So please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about this track.
Hello, everyone. My name is Armstrong Foundjem. I'm from Canada. I'm affiliated with the Maintenance, Construction, and Intelligence of Software Laboratory. It's at Kingston, Queen's University in Kingston. So I used machine learning and AI in my research, and the intersection is between the human-centered AI, release engineering, which is in software engineering, and the ecosystems around the deployment process. So I'm affiliated with the release team at OpenStack, and in my past experience, I worked with the Microsoft research team, especially the Productivity and Intelligence Laboratory this summer, where I was asked to do some work on improving their developers' velocity. Previously, I had proposed certain algorithm using machine learning, like deep reinforcement and supervised learning, and also building black boxes for vehicles to reconstruct accident scenarios. So this area, it's something that I'm very passionate about, especially on data science using machine learning and AI, like swarm robotics and intelligent agents. Most importantly, the area of ethical use of AI, that's like the big thing that I'm very passionate about. Not just building the model, but make it bias-free, using the ethical way of representing data and explainable AI. So I think on the track, it's a very broad range from AI, which is the umbrella theme in artificial intelligence. Well, I will not really go into all the details, because everything right now, AI is used everywhere and everybody needs AI. So it's a very broad topic. So we'll try to look at, open it in that dimension to welcome as much as people could represent or mimic human intelligence in a way in the application and being explainable. We also have topics that are, in the research areas, for example, scientific research. People have been doing fantastic works that we would like to see in this kind of conferences, where they will showcase how it can impact life fairly. We need high intensity workload for the HPC, the high performance computers, and the high throughput computations. These are also fairly recent things that are really coming up and helping AI to get more meaningful for deployment. That said, we'll also go into deep learning, which is the new things in machine learning, to see how we could deploy pipelines right up to production. Natural language processing in the area of businesses, banks, and many other hospitals to assist doctors to do diagnosis with their clients, chatbots and voice recognition systems, using all these kind of applications that are open for this track, especially running applications in open infrastructure cloud platforms will really be of great interest as well. Notwithstanding, there are innovations that have been happening of recent using the FPGAs, the data processing units and the graphical processing units. All these in large scales are more than welcome.
Awesome. Yeah, there's a lot to cover there. And I know, like I said, it's just coming up a lot lately. So I can see that one being a popular one this cycle as well. So Kurt, thank you for accurately branding this. I should have come up with this myself. You're absolutely right. This is definitely the A team. So well said. Awesome. We also did have a question from the audience. I believe, Arne, this would go to you. What do you think about this as a topic for the public cloud?
Right, it's a question about whether like a talk about, if I read this right, NVMe over Fabric would be interesting in a public cloud and a public OpenStack cloud. I think that sounds very interesting. I mean, it's not my like track, this is a public, but still, yeah, I think that there have been like quite some activities like enabling NVMe over Fabric. So I think that's an interesting topic, yeah.
Cool, awesome. Keep the questions coming. We do have a couple more things we're gonna talk about, but audience questions we will jump to. So a question just for everyone, kind of combining, what type, we talked a little bit about the topics that each one will cover, but what types of submissions would stand out to you? Or are there any exciting trends within your track that maybe wouldn't have showed up a year ago, but are definitely buzzworthy now? Would love to hear if, any comments on from each of you on those things. Anyone want to kick it off?
So yeah, so maybe I go first then. So one of the things I was thinking about is like everything that goes around like integrating upcoming technologies or ways of working into existing clouds. So the cloud is becoming, at least in my impression, more and more diverse. There's like new things that pop up. Okay, GPUs are not brand new, but it's still something that needs to be integrated into the cloud. So how do you provide them? How do you configure them? You use virtual GPUs or pass-through. Like ARM is very a hot topic at the moment. So how do you integrate ARM servers into your cloud? Bare metal as well, using bare metal APIs. Do you have this? How do you integrate this? So integration, I think, is one very interesting topic to like also maintain your cloud and keep it interesting for your users by adopting this new technology. So everything that evolves around this, I think, would be very interesting.
Love that.
I think one thing coming out of our recent keynotes was Loki.
Yep.
So getting started on how to use Kubernetes and OpenStack and just making sure you do keep it to that beginner level would be a really great fit for getting started.
It's great. I'm sure Alison Price is very happy with your Loki plug there, Amy. Thanks for that. Awesome. Arkady or Armstrong, any thoughts here?
Yeah, I can go. So the things that I would really look at stand out would be when we are talking about AI. AI is not new. It's been in the practice and literature for right back in the 60s. We could look in interesting works. But there are enabling technology like what my colleague just said. The hardwares, the cloud, the data were not there massively to make meaningful decisions. So things like deep learning were even forgotten. I remember when people like Hamilton or many others in the father of AI and deep learning, he got frustrated at some point. His supervisor even told him, forget about these things and take something interesting. But that is the hotcake today. What made it so interesting? Data. So most of the things that will really stand out will be how people will filter out data to remove bias, to make it well represented, because we have seen a lot of discrimination happening in the domain of AI. People are kicked out from systems just because they don't have the kind of accents that were used to train those models. So when they give a command or they speak, it cannot identify them, it pushes them out. We have seen people, the models that have been trained using some kind of selected male figures. When a qualified lady comes, it cannot identify it and classify it as those kind of potential people because it was not trained using a representative structure of women or females. So we really want to see this kind of consideration when data is filtered out, remove every kind of bias that could possibly be, and let the submission try to know the limitations of things they are doing, explain it in a way that the prediction will be so much meaningful and trustworthy. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I would definitely go to that talk. That sounds incredibly interesting. Awesome. Arkady, any trends or topics that would really stand out to you in hardware enablement? Oh, you're muted.
Hardware enablement is a brand new, so there is, it's not like we have a history of the trend which we can represent on the summit. However, the things which would really stand out to me is that the hardware enablement have been there for a while, but the hardware enablement optimizing things specific for a specific type of the workloads or specific specific use cases and ability for the you to manage that in an automated way is the one which should really stand out. Because you can set up things in a manual way and optimize it any way you want it, relatively easy. But to have it done automatically and have it adapted for different use case optimization as you go. And especially if you can adapt it such that portions of the cloud are adapted for one thing, and you can modify it automatically based upon the workload which is coming in. So those are big things. And that have this is an area which is very hot and have been for a couple of years, but there is still a lot of the gaps and open questions.
I think just to add to this, what Arkady said, to support him on this, I think there's a difference between something is supported in the software, like the Cyborg is around for a while, there's support for GPUs since a while, but making this work and maintain this over years, keep it running and automate this, I think this is an important aspect of things. And there's still, as Arkady said, there's still a lot of work and there's still a lot of interesting things happening.
Love it. Awesome. Well, we talked a little bit earlier about obviously getting started is its own track, but we've got first-time submitters for all of these tracks. Any tips, advice, bits of wisdom that you would share for folks that maybe have never submitted to a CFP before, ours or any? I would love to hear some advice for those first timers.
Yeah, I think one thing that's really helpful is a catchy title. You want something that's going to immediately bring people in. A good comprehensive abstract, not just what you're going to talk about, but what people are going to get out of coming to your session. I think those are really important. Now, we, as part of our process, if you submit to the wrong track, we will put you in the right track. So that's important too. So don't panic so much about what track. I mean, try to get it right. But, if it's not, we're going to try to find your best place. I know we're not talking about the process at all today, but if we do get too similar, we might reach out to you to combine, so don't be so concerned that yours is the most unique thing on the face of the planet. Just make sure it's a good abstract and a good talk. That's
great advice.
Right. I think in order to triage the talks, it's very important that it's understandable, it's comprehensive, because it's limited to, I forgot, 1,000 words or something.
Yeah.
Or 1,000 characters. I don't know. There's some limit. So, make sure the program committee can understand what you plan to talk about. So that I think that's important. We get a clear picture. And then the second thing I would like to highlight is that don't underestimate what you have done. And if it's interesting to you, it's probably interesting to others. So don't think your work is not relevant or not important enough to have a talk at the summit. I've seen this in the past where people think, oh, that's not relevant, no one would be interested. And it was very interesting topics that a lot of people were interested in. So don't hesitate to submit is probably my main message.
It's great advice.
Yeah, I think adding to what Amy have said and Annie, the abstract is the key. You really need to put your selling point up front. So dragging people's curiosity towards listening to your talk. sometimes people might want to use a lot of high-level language, some abstract mathematics, something that will even scare people. Keep it simple. Go to that explanation that a common person when I use the word common, not in the negative sense, somebody who is a novice in your area could pick it up and understand what you're talking about. Let that selling point be the take-home message. So everybody reading at your abstract will say, oh, definitely I need this. The implication of your work should highlight itself. If you're doing something, try to ask yourself, what are the implications of this work? How will it advance the use of this technology for our common day-to-day uses or for the particular application? Highlight that and really hit hard on your selling point. Thank you.
I'll just add that all of those points are exceptionally good, and it should definitely follow that. In abstract, I mean, the key thing is what is the novelty? What are the things which you expect people to learn from that?
Yep.
Because that's what makes a big difference. Even if you apply the existing technology in a different way or for existing use cases and so on, all of those are great things to show and demonstrate how useful those things are. So the most important things, don't be shy. Don't be scared. Submit it. You will get a feedback. Even if it will not be accepted this time, you will get a very good feedback to help you be productive the next time. Or if it's good enough right now, it will be accepted.
Yep, that's a great point. We had a couple questions. Oh, sorry. Was I talking over somebody?
I was just going to point out that we also have the lightning talks.
Yep.
So if you're not confident enough to submit something for a full-length talk, consider doing it as a lightning talk.
Yep, that's very true.
That's a good option. Just to add also, sometimes it is helpful to look in the past submission, see what people did in the past, the full talk themselves. Just watch some few videos that OpenInfra has put up there and try to analyze in your own understanding. What are the key points of these messages? How did the presenter go about presenting their facts? It will guide you, to be original in your own finding and try to keep it within this kind of range.
I love that. Especially, like I mentioned before, that Ben Silverman video, it's from a Sydney summit. All of our summit videos are out on our YouTube channel, so definitely check those out. Great resource to be able to kind of see what we're looking for, what's gotten accepted in the past. Love that. And we did get a question, just asking for some clarification. So each individual can submit up to 3 talks. That is correct. And then Arne, it is 1,000 words is the abstract limit. You are correct. That's a great memory there. So just some clarity on some of those things. Here we've got.
Sorry, Erin. That's quite important. I mean, I remember this because I had written an abstract in somewhere else, and then I tried to submit it, and I had to realize, and I was working on it for quite some time, work on the phrasing, and then only to find out that I had to shorten it by 50% in order to fit it in. So.
Oh my gosh, 50% is rough.
I think it's good to know upfront that this is limited to 1,000 words.
Yes, very good point. We have another question from the audience, Marcus from Texas, asking if it helps to include links to past talks. Any comments there?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely can. It shows a little bit of commitment that you are going to follow through with the process, and that you will give your talk, because there have been people who have in the past, got submitted, got approved, and then, didn't show up for their talks and things. So that does give you a bit of history that the person will talk and their level of talk, especially when, you're on the fence of whether it may be too technical for your track or more advanced, or, does this really fit in? And you can look up somebody's history and see what that abstract was and how they actually presented it and whether it will be a good fit or not.
Yeah.
The submission form has a specific part for this, no? If I remember correctly.
It does.
Okay.
Yep. And apparently I said 1,000 words. It's 1,000 characters. So just making that.
I was correcting myself as well when I said 1,000 words sounded a lot.
This is what I get, first time host problems. So yes, 1,000 characters. Thanks to my team for clarifying that. Awesome. So we do have a slide. We kind of spoke to this a little bit earlier, but I wanted to at least run through, since all of you had some great things to add here. Tips and tricks are great, but like do's and don'ts, I love some of these. Anyone feel like calling out some of the ones that you added here?
Sure. I'll go. So as usual, when you're presenting, make it interesting to as large audience as you can. It's also will be of interest when the program committee looks at the abstract. The larger audience is impacted by that, the better it is. Demo was always, big seller. People would like to see the demo because it's the most interesting part. So this has always been the case. Don't try to do sales pitch. This is absolutely no. There is, there is a place to do that, but not part of the program presentations. And we have a separate place at a forum where that is applicable, but not for the submissions. Lessons learned. What did you learn from doing the work? And how do you impact? What kind of things you're planning to do from that going forward? And since we are the open infrastructure, collaborating with users and developers is one of the key aspects of how we operate. So, demonstrating, as a part of that, or maybe joint submissions are always very welcome.
Yeah. Okay. One of the interesting areas in AI, machine learning, as I said earlier, is cleaning your data. So one thing people in the AI track really wants to do is to remove all kind of bias, ethical, unacceptable behavior that the data may represent. There are tons of those. There are tools out there. There are a lot of mechanisms or techniques that could help folks to get in touch, and we'll keep our contacts to give pointers and indicators how to do this kind of thing. Try to keep your work simple and original. Don't try to solve all the world's problem in one submission. Break it down to one meaningful, impactful model, which can easily explain by yourself. If you have a lot of things on your plate, you get confused as you start going around. Then don't over assume the audience understands all the high level things, or just try to keep it simple. And don't come and be criticizing the works of other people. Oh, this guy try to add value of something that have been built upon. Even if in the past they did some error, they did some great work up to the point where you are adding value. So pick it up from there and add value. You will keep your work so interesting. Then don't over-exaggerate your result. This is commonly practiced in the world. When people are abusing statistics, they'll tell you, oh, I have a 95% accuracy. I have 80. Those numbers themselves don't tell any good story. If we don't know the population you are talking about, we don't know the size of things you did, you just come with some 95% of the time. Please just watch out those kind of minute things. They can mislead and lead easily to rejection if you don't really explain a lot of things around your data. So you really want not to over-exaggerate or to blow off your implications or impact of your result. Keep it reasonable. The simple ways are always the good ways and the best, surprisingly.
That is great advice.
Yeah,
Anything else you guys want to call out?
Yeah, there's one thing. It's kind of valid for demos and for lesson learned. Don't be afraid of failure. When lessons learned, talk about things that didn't go right, and then what you learned and how you did get it to work in the end. A demo, if it blows up in the middle, think of what everybody's going to learn watching you fix it during your demo.
Mm-hmm.
So failure is a great thing. Don't be afraid of it.
I love that. Arne, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I would like to add something to it, like assume make assumptions about the audience. So many of us are working in like with OpenStack since several years. But nonetheless, I don't think that we are experts in all areas. So people are focusing on the storage part or the networking part or specific areas within OpenStack. So don't make assumptions that the audience knows everything about the topic you're talking about, and start with something like right in the middle. So I appreciate, if there's some kind of introduction that like helps the audience to understand the context and where this is going, so that you have like at least initially make the audience a little bit like comfortable, like in the first, say, I don't know, third or so that people hear something that they're familiar with, and not are like immediately confronted with like something that is like overwhelming them and you lose the audience right away. I think that's also along the lines of what Armstrong said, like keep it simple, to the point, and at least initially try to take the audience with you is very important. And then also what Amy said, I like very much, like failure. I still remember like presentations where there was a demo and something failed. I still remember what the demo was about, while others I have seen where it just worked, I have forgotten. So yeah, it's very good. I mean, it's not only about like praising and how like brilliant someone is. I mean, it's also good to call out like failures or deficiencies. I think that's also quite interesting to people.
Yeah, that's great advice. I remember some episodes where talking about the failures is just as therapeutic as hearing what went well, just because you can relate to some of those things. I think that's great. Awesome. Very good. Well, we don't have any more audience questions. Do appreciate those that have come in. Before we wrap up, I think, is there anything else you want to add? I know we're definitely going to be posting everyone's how to get a hold of you. We're still, the track chair or the programming committee deadline was yesterday, so we're still getting all of those notifications out. And we'll definitely be doing some office hours, that sort of thing. So as you're working through your CFP submissions, you'll be able to reach out and speak with the programming committee. I think that's something that's so great about this program, is that everyone makes themselves accessible and available for questions to help along the way. So we do have one audience question that came in, and then we'll post everyone's contact information. Do you have to be there physically to present, or can you present virtually? Great question, Sarah. Right now, we are not planning on a virtual element, so it would need to be a physical presentation this round. But great question.
But let me just add in that there is a really great travel support program.
There is. Thank you, Amy. Great point. Those nominations, or that form to submit, is live. We'll be posting. We've got hang on one second. Looking through my banners, seeing if I've got one I can show here. We'll have the Summit website up here in a second that you can submit for that. Here, let me just show it right now. So you can learn more about the summit at the openinfra.dev/summit. The travel support link is there. Definitely submit for CFP, I would say, and then submit also for TSP, and we'll do our best to get you there if the travel is a concern. Awesome. I believe we've got some banners up. If everyone's comfortable, I'm going to show how to get a hold of each of you. If people do have questions particular to each of the tracks that you're representing, let me grab these real fast. Armstrong, starting with you, you've got your IRC and your email here. Thank you so much for providing those. So you want to get in touch with Armstrong. Here's that information. Second. Arkady, thank you for providing your email address. Leave that up for a second for folks. We've got Amy's IRC and email, double email. Way to go. Now you're winning. And then Arne, awesome. Thank you so much for providing your IRC. Sweet. We did have one more audience question, and then we'll probably close this out. Not sure who wants to take this. What's the best way to decide on the complexity of a topic the interface invites to determine if it when submitting the abstract? Any advice on this?
It's hard, and I'll admit it's hard, because if you're very comfortable with the subject, and you're like, I can do this in 5 seconds. It's beginner. And then you read through it and then it's not. And if we do run into something like that, I believe we can change it in the system. So, or we'll contact you and, say, we've read through your abstract. We really think this is an intermediate level, not an advanced level. Are you okay with us changing that? So you're not on your own with this. If we need to reach out to you to get clarification and to make sure you're correct, we will.
Yeah, one quick way of getting around this kind of breaking down complexity, if you are around somebody who is completely ignorant about your topic, just plead for 2 minutes and just present your ideas to that person. If that person like, what are you talking about? Completely off. Okay, you can now try to explain it in a way that somebody who is complete novice in your area could at least pick up one concept and tell it back to you. This is what I got. Then you are communicating from that point. Yeah.
That's a great answer. And great question. Thank you to the audience for asking some questions today. And thank you to the panel. Appreciate you all being here and sharing all of your awesome insights. I think this was super helpful. Yes, this is the link. This is the link you need, cfp.openinfra.dev. Deadline is February 9th. Let me pull up that slide one more time. That's got everything you need to know. Reg is live. Sponsorships are live. CFP is live. Everything is live. We're in full Berlin mode. Definitely get those talks in. Like I said, we'll be publishing some office hours for the programming committee coming up in the near future. We also have, one more time. Here's all the tracks just for your reference in case you missed this slide at the beginning. All of this is out on the CFP tool at the link that was just provided. We also have another episode of OpenInfra Live coming up on February 3rd, also at 1500 UTC. This will actually be another in our large-scale OpenStack series, which we've been doing for the last year, every month or two, where we feature operators discussing both their deployments and operations. This episode will feature OVH Cloud, so make sure to subscribe to your preferred platform so you don't miss it. Also, remember that if you have ideas for the show, we definitely want to hear from you. Submit your ideas at ideas.openinfra.live, and maybe you'll be on a future episode. So thanks again to today's panel. Remember to get your CFP submissions in by February 9th. Mark your calendars for February 3rd for that upcoming episode, and we will see you all on the next episode of OpenInfra Live. Thanks.